Good evening, gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of A Fool's Interpretation of the Havamal. I am your host, Robert the Fool, and today we are going to be going over stanzas 30, 31, 32, and 33. 34 begins on page 17, but I'm not going to discuss stanza 34 until the next segment. So, without further ado, let's read these stanzas and talk about what I think they remind me of today as I read them. Because one of the things that I want to talk about is when I'm making these videos and I'm talking about what these stanzas remind me of, there's not only one thing that these stanzas remind me of. I like to read the Havamal on a daily, semi-daily basis, and each time I read them, oftentimes I think of the same thing, but there are many, I think of many different things when I read these same stanzas. It's not, there's not only one thing that pops into my head when I read these, but in these videos, I'm just picking one example. But let's get into reading them, and then we'll discuss what I think they mean. And if there's ever enough people watching these videos, you assholes can tell me what you think about them. But let's get into it. So, stanza 30. No one should ridicule anyone else, even if he comes visiting. Many a man seems wise if he is never questioned, and he gets to brood with dry skin. Now, this one used to always kind of trip me up because of the part where about the brooding with dry skin. But before we get to that, let's talk about the first part of it. Like, nobody should ridicule anybody else, even if he comes visiting. To me, I think this is don't be talking pointless shit about other people for no reason. Like in the last video, I was seemingly talking a whole bunch of shit about Andrew Tate. I don't think that that's what this is. I don't think what I was talking about last time is what this is meaning. What I think this means is like if I were to talk shit about Andrew Tate because he's bald, and so he shaves his head and then he like waxes it to try to make it look good because he's bald. Because if he grew out a bit of hair and tried to like fade it or have some kind of haircut, it'd look fucking stupid. So what he has to do is shave his head, and then I don't know what bald guys put on their head, but there's like a bunch of dudes that do this where I work too. They have like a really shiny head for some reason. I guarantee they're rubbing something on it. I have no idea what it is. And so that's what I think this is talking about. When it says like you shouldn't ridicule anybody else when even if they come visiting. I think it's baseless shit talking is what this is talking about. Because like if say you got a friend, you're hanging out with your buddies and you're like, "Oh yeah, Matt." Say say Matt's married. Matt's got a couple of kids. But Matt's kind of poor, cuz and Matt lives in an apartment and you and your buddies all own houses. And so it would be what I think this is talking about, this first part of stanza 30, is talking shit about your buddy Matt just because he lives in an apartment. And you and your buddies got houses and you can provide more things for your friends. Or, I mean, for your kids. I mean, it's like, is Matt a good father? Is he a good husband? Is he a good friend? If you need help doing something, does Matt come help? Or is Matt just poor and you're making fun of him because he doesn't make as much money as you? Like, you're a piece of shit if you're making fun of Matt because he's poor. And he's if you're not making fun of him because he's a shitty father and a shitty husband and a shitty friend and just a piece of shit in general, then you're making fun of him for the wrong reasons. Now, if your buddy is a piece of shit alcoholic husband, father that beats his family, then yeah, make fun of him. And when he's around, then make fun of him to his face. Put his ass in his place and let him know he's a piece of shit and basically pull an intervention on him and let him know he needs to get his shit together and fucking pull his head out of his ass. This part here where it's talking about many a man seems wise if he is never questioned, and he gets to brood with dry skin. That part used to always like trip me up. I'd be like really confused about it, wondering like what is this talking about? Like brood with dry skin. Like okay, to brood. Like there's two things I could think of when I think about the word brood. I think about a chicken sitting like a hen sitting on a bunch of eggs, brooding, trying to hatch those eggs. So like I'm thinking about like this hen focusing all of her attention on hatching these eggs. All right, I'm like, well, we're fucking dudes, we're humans, and I'm talking to men. So obviously, I'm not going to relate you to a female chicken hen who's brooding on eggs. No, the other example that I can think of when I think of the word brood is like you're fuming. It reminds me of fuming on something that you're thinking about for days and weeks, and you're thinking about the same thing, like, oh, this motherfucker said this to me at school or at work, or like that, this chick said this to me and it really got me irked, got you going, and you're just stewing over it, and you're like taking showers, coming up with comebacks. and that's and the dry skin part, the dry, like that makes me think that you're brooding over something to your detriment. like like a chicken, like okay, for example, like a chicken who's brooding too much, they forget to eat, they forget to go to the bathroom, they forget to like do personal hygiene. And so this dry skin thing, that's what it's making me think of. Like you're brooding so much over what you aren't necessarily pissed off about, but like since nobody's questioning you about whatever it is, however it is that you like your point of view on life, then you're going to brood with that mentality to your own detriment. Like if you think it's perfectly fine to drink every single day, uh, before work, after you get home from work, and then binge drink on the weekends, you're going to do that to your own detriment if nobody ever questions you about it. All right. Stanza 31. A man may seem wise if he pokes fun at another and disdains a fellow guest. But the man who talks behind another man's back knows little, even if he laughs with men. So, what does this make us think about? What does this make us think about? This makes me think about like back in high school when you'd be talking, when there'd be a group of dudes standing in a circle talking about that pussy freshman Sam who tried out for the wrestling, for like the varsity wrestling team, and he got his ass handed to him. He got thrown all over the mat, and then these like douchebag juniors and seniors are sitting around fucking talking shit about him, and they're talking shit about him behind his back. Or even when he's there at practice, dude, nothing is like I used to play sports all throughout elementary school, middle school, and then half of high school. Well, because like I dropped out sophomore year. But dude, nothing was worse than when you get into high school and you get taken advantage of by the juniors and seniors, and then they talk shit to you because they think it's funny, and then because they can take advantage of you because they outweigh you by like 30 or 40 pounds, and then they talk shit about you behind your back, and they think that that's when they can get the even bigger laughs. it's and like I've been on both sides of this, like because when I was in middle school, I got bullied a bunch because I was small. Didn't hit my growth spurt until like junior year, but by that time I had already dropped out, and so I was like going to alternative school and stuff. So that's a completely different story. But this reminds me of being like a little kid in high school and then being on the wrestling team and and doing well, but then getting your ass handed to you by kids that were older and larger by like 20, 30, even 40 pounds, and then having them treat you like shit and talk shit about you to it just for the sake of talking shit about the fact that they beat you and because it was so easy. And I think that kind of shit talking is for fools. Like it wasn't, it's not like, say, somebody tried to pull a ball and chain on you from like a starting position, and then like maybe there was a reversal, and then you put that, and then somebody got put into like got pinned in a banana split after trying to throw somebody in a ball and chain. You know, like telling that story, and then and even telling it where you're kind of like talking shit because they tried to throw you in a ball and chain, and then you reversed it and pinned them with a banana split. And getting pinned in a banana split is kind of embarrassing because your legs get split. And so like that, you could tell that story and talk shit at the same time without being the kind of fool that I think that this stanza is talking about. Stanza 32. Many men are kind to one another, but will fight at a feast. There will always be conflict between men. A guest will fight a guest. When I think about this makes me think about like if I ever actually met Andrew Tate, I think that we'd probably get along really well. And then I think after getting along for a while, we'd probably get into a physical altercation and fight. And then there'd be a period of hating one another until after that, and then after that period of hating one another, then you slowly realize that this is like this is an equal of yours. You both go to this event, or like in this, what this stanza is saying, a feast. You're both at this feast, and then everybody's at the feast because they want to hang out, they want to have a good time, they want to be kind to one another. But then at the same time, you got a bunch of men, and if you're the kind of men that I perceive myself to be, and that I assume you are, that are listening, you young men, you grown men, and you old men, then we got like cocks made of concrete. And if somebody starts spouting off, then you've got your honor to defend. And there's the problem of knowing when to punch a motherfucker in the face for calling you a bitch, and when not to punch that motherfucker in the face. Because sometimes when when somebody calls you a bitch to your face, it's the fool that punches them. Sometimes it's more wise to keep your cool and not get into the fight. But wherever there are two men, there will be a conflict. Geez, even between my brothers and I, there's conflict happening all the time. Stanza 33. You should eat your meals early, unless you are visiting a friend. A hungry man sits and gets sluggish, and his wits are impaired. So, like, what I think this is talking about is like, if you're gonna go see a friend, I think it's saying, like, don't, like, save your meal time for your family and friends. I mean, if you can, if you're going to see family or friends today, like, why not save your time of consuming food and share it with them? Like, I don't think I've ever come across a culture in the world that doesn't use eating food as a way to bond with people. When you share food with people, It's like you're one of your most vulnerable moments. Like if you've ever been hunting, you know, when a deer or an elk is like the most paranoid is when they dip their head down to take a drink of water or, take a bite of grass or something. And if you've ever been sitting in the fog off in the nearby tree line, watching these motherfuckers come out to try to get a bite to eat or a drink of water or something, you see it, how easy they flinch when they go to eat or drink. And other than going to the bathroom, that's probably one of the most vulnerable time periods. That's probably one of the most vulnerable time. That's probably one of the times we are the most vulnerable in our lives. And so I think that that's the point behind sharing this vulnerable time with the people close to you. But if you got stuff to do that day, then you should eat before you leave your house. Because if you go try to do some work on an empty stomach, then that's what I think it's talking about with a hungry man sits and gets sluggish. Because, oh my gosh, on the days where for whatever reason I don't eat breakfast, and then I like either try to go outside, get some yard work done, or like the thought of exercising and working out on an empty stomach, like, oh, I gotta, like, fuck that. Like, Jesus, I gotta do something to force feed myself so I can get the energy to go do something. Because, yeah, uh, sitting around with nothing but coffee in the belly, all I want to do is scroll on my stupid fucking phone. And then after about 10 minutes of doing that, I just feel like some pussy ass bitch, and I gotta go do something. Do something productive. So, that's pretty much all I have to say about these stanzas. I'm kind of excited to get into stanza 34. We just talk about, it's a long and crooked walk to a bad friend. That's one of my most favorite stanzas. But I'll save that for next time. I'm gonna hop off here and go get ready for bed, because if you've listened to any of my other videos, you know that I work swing shift, and I just got home from work a little bit ago, and I gotta get up early tomorrow, so I'm gonna go get ready for bed. I'll catch you guys all later.